today. The $170,000 raise isn't bad, would you say?
Yeah, that's not too shabby. Being there's many people out there probably making less than 50 grand a year somewhere right now. So yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, 590 grand a year.
Right.
I could
So
I could try to make that work.
Oh yeah, yeah. And when you look at
Hello, aviators. Welcome back to the Pro Pilot Playbook podcast, where we help people become pilots faster and cheaper. I'm Sean Ritchie.
and I'm Mike Martin.
And we're glad to be back. It's been, I feel like we say this every time, Mike, but if we get all riled up, we're going to put one up every week and something happens. And I am not exaggerating here. I have flown more in the last 45 days. I went back and looked at everything, just all the trips. I've been to Jamaica 3 times. I've been down to Costa Rica. I flew coast to coast trips 4 or 5 times. I've flown more in the last 45 days than I've flown in the last 2 years. I don't know what's happened. Maybe not quite 2 years, just over a year and a half, whatever. I've flown a ton here lately. And it's like impossible for us to meet up, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, it's been something just getting our schedule aligned. I mean, I've been spring break, came and corporate pilots get busy around spring break. A lot of people want to do their winter trips, or their spring trips coming out of winter, and we've been flying a ton too. Good trips though. So you were in Jamaica 3 times?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you spend any time down there?
Yeah. 2 of the times I was there, I spent 8 days there total already this month. So yeah, and I got to go back one more time here and pick everybody up. That company was doing a company retreat down there.
Oh, gotcha.
So yeah, me and the co-pilot. This is one of those. I'm not really complaining about flying too much because everywhere I was going was cool stuff. I spent a week out in Napa, out in California, and got to do some real wine tastings. Not like a normal person goes to Napa and they just drive around to whatever vineyards are open, whatever. The passengers actually hooked me and the co-pilot up with a proper, they got us a limo and this handler to drive us around to all these places that took appointments. I'm sitting out drinking a glass of wine over the vineyard that these grapes came out of. And it's just, it was the stuff dreams are made of. I got to do Napa the way it was supposed to be done. It was pretty neat.
Wow, man, I don't have anything that good. So no, I did do a great trip out to San Diego for 5 days, and we stayed downtown. And I hadn't been there in probably 5 years, 6 years. So we stayed right down by the Padres Stadium and got to, just walk every day out in front of the bay there. We took the boat over to Coronado. One day I walked over 10 miles just looking at stuff. Wow. I took the boat over to Coronado, and then all on the island over that Hotel Del Coronado. I went all through there, out on the beach. You can see those, what is that Air Force base there at Coronado? Is that what it's called? Or North Island?
Well, you got there's a couple different things down there, but I don't that air base. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
the Navy. I mean, of course, San Diego. The Navy has they're a bunch of stuff down there. And of course, San Diego is where they shot the first Top Gun movie. Which there's a video on our podcast of me doing a trip to San Diego. But
that's right. Yeah.
God, man,
I went to that same bar. I dropped a TikTok. If anybody's following, I was at that same Top Gun bar, man. It was awesome. There's a guy in there telling me that they did one of those. Actually, it's that aircraft carrier where you can.
It's like you can tour it and stuff. I think, right?
Yes. So they did the secret premiere of the Top Gun movie there on that carrier, and then Tom Cruise came in a helicopter, and all the generals and stuff were there to watch it. There is just so much to see there, and then we went up to La Jolla one day just to kill time, and because I had heard about it, and saw the seals and the beach and everything. I mean, it was just a really nice, man. And of course, it was 68 degrees and sunny, 68 to 71 degrees every single day.
Every day. That is just a beautiful part of our country. I love
Yeah,
it.
it sure is. Yeah, yeah.
So
Awesome.
this week we're back, and
Yep.
the title of this podcast, which you already saw, is "Oh my God, look at America! Look at American Airlines pay." And
Oh man.
so
Yeah.
there's some stuff shaking up, and I get, they just signed that new contract.
Right.
All these airlines are union. So this is how it works. Everybody gets together and whatever. Sometimes they go on strike,
Right.
but it's always a fight back and forth between management and the pilots union of what everybody wants. What's going to
Totally.
keep the company afloat, but keep all their guys from being angry,
Right.
or people.
Did you
I
go?
should say
Did,
guys.
did you go through any strikes when you were an airline pilot?
No, I never experienced anything like that. There was negotiations going on all the time. There's always silly stuff there going back
Right.
and forth about, but this was a big one. And
Yeah. Yeah. So tell them the reason we titled this was
oh
really.
yeah, you know what?
Well,
There is a piggyback to this
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
entire thing we're about to talk about here.
Right.
It came in from a question we received from Zach. And we thought we'd combine a little current event stuff with Zach's question. And here's what Zach asked us here. I found the podcast very helpful and answered a lot of questions. I'll be 38 this year and plan on going to ATP, which is one of those huge mega flight schools. Basically, you show up with a private pilot's license, they offer financing, and they take you through every step of the process, getting you certified. And then once you become a CFI, you end up working for them, teaching the new guys coming through this same program. And after you get to your 1,500 hours, which is the minimum to become an airline pilot, they're already connected with all these regional carriers and whatever. It's a no-brainer. I mean, you have to go do an interview, but you're going to get that interview. You're going to be at the top of the list and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, plans on going to ATP. I'm a single dad, but have good support from family, so I'm very blessed in that. I'm selling my house and getting rid of all my debt so I can pursue this. My question is, at 40, when I should have enough hours to get to the majors, should I hypothetically make enough to pay back this loan debt, since it's a substantial loan, and don't want to be 65 still paying back this loan? Thank you.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So Zach, yeah, I don't know. I do know ATP offers loans, and there's a few different products out there besides what ATP's offering. I would imagine the ATP, one-stop shopping, the convenience of it all is
Right.
pretty overwhelming. But there are other ways to get money to become a pilot. As a matter of fact, Mike, I'm sure you agree with this. The older I get, and we play around with stuff, money's the easy part.
Right.
I mean, there's money out there to get, especially with something like this, but we wanted to combine this question in with this American Airlines contract because this is huge. These guys in Delta just signed one too. I don't know the details on Delta, but
Right.
just to put this in perspective, the last time American raised their salary, their pay scale, was in 2017, and it went up 7% across the board.
Right. Right. 7%. And what's this one now?
What we just had to look it up and look through these numbers, make sure it's legit, but 21% pay increase.
Woo, that'll get you moving. That'll fight inflation. Yeah, this article. So we've got an article pulled up here from Flying Magazine, and it's quoting a spokesperson from American, and it says, by the end of the agreement, so that means by the end of your career, which would be at this age 65, factoring in base salary and increased 401k contributions. So before we get any hate mail, these numbers include your 401k match. A narrow body captain at top pay scale would make $475,000 a year, or $135,000 more than they earn today. And a wide body captain at the top of the pay scale would earn $590,000 a year, $170,000 more than they did today. $170,000 raise isn't bad, would you say?
Yeah, that's not too shabby. Beings, there's many people out there probably making less than 50 grand a year somewhere right now. So yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, 590 grand a year.
Right.
I could try to make that work.
Oh yeah. And when you look at, so what I would say to our question there is, when he looks at other professions and what they make. Okay, so if you look at medical doctors, which is a great comparison, everybody knows they make a lot of money. These guys aren't making this kind of number, and they got to go to medical school, which I'm sorry, it's a lot harder, to be honest with you, and it's way more money. And you don't make doctor money, and I don't want to get into all this because I'm not an expert on the field, but what I know about it is, you got 4 years of regular college, 4 years of medical school, and then residency, and then all this. I mean, it's 8 or 10 years before you're earning that, where you can get this much faster.
Right. Well, the other thing to keep in mind there is, I feel like maybe I told this story in a podcast already, but my wife had something going on with her shoulder or something. We went in to see the doctor.
Right.
This guy, he probably drove a Tesla to work. Sure. And he's got a nice house, but this dude was strung out. This guy looked like somebody who had been working 6 days in a row, 14 hours a day. I mean, I haven't flown in 4 days, and I'm coming off, one of the biggest stretches of flying, and I'm not supposed to fly the rest of the week.
Right.
But I still get my salary, I still get paid.
Right.
It's a common pilot thing, Mike, you were just telling me a story about somebody here in town. They're guys, these guys only fly a few days a month.
Yeah, I mean,
we have them in here doing something else in the company or something?
Yeah. I mean, you hear that all the time, because it's hard for people in business to fathom this, because they don't really know sometimes how little they work. But I've worked for several different operators, and I've had at least 3 occasions where I've had just 3 months off. Never even saw an airplane. Either the plane was down for maintenance. I worked for a company. They hired me. The longest off time I ever had, they hired me, and they had an airplane under contract. They hadn't closed on it yet. And then I went to training, because there's a lag. You want to be able to, and then while I was in training, the deal fell apart on the plane. And then they had to look for another one, which they found another one. They bought it. But by the time they found another plane, and they closed on it, had the inspection, all that, and it was actually on property, it was like 5 months.
Oh, wow.
So my old employer,
that's a good run.
Yeah. So the big joke, the company I left, in the cockpit, pilots talk or whatever, they're like, "Oh, Martin found the best corporate flying job ever. He's flying for a company without an airplane." So yeah, I mean,
that is good.
That happens, So yeah, it's just it's kind of an unspoken truth about the business, So, and it's a huge perk. And I think, not to tease it, but we are going to do a video that ties into this in the next few weeks. Yeah. About what you can do in your off time to make more money. And that really is a big thing. So, Sean and I obviously are both corporate pilots, and you read these eye-popping numbers from American, and you're like, man, well, we're not making that. But, it depends on what else you got going on, because those guys are working a lot, more than we are.
Right. Absolutely. Well, typically, actually, let's get into that. Let's get into some technical stuff here for Zach. What we're talking about when we say, we just threw out some salaries.
Right.
All right. So the Payscale American, and you can go to airlinepilotscentral.com and see what they make.
Right.
That is not the new contract, though. That's currently what they're getting paid. This new contract.
You got to add 20-something% to those numbers, right?
Yeah, 21%. Yep. But that the new contract doesn't start till what did it say, next year, I think. But that pay scale is based on 12 years. Okay, so you're saying you'd start flying at 40, but you're not going to go directly to the majors. However, just keeping American as the example, you would go into probably like PSA, who is linked up with ATP. PSA has the flow through directly to American. So you'll do one interview your entire career at PSA. You'll fly the RJ for 2 or 3 years, 4 at the most, and then you're off to American.
Right.
Majors. And there's no interview. It's a complete flow through process. We've talked about this before on the podcast. But the other thing right now, it's the retirement is 65. The airlines all got together and were pushing. I just read this article, and this is something that I prophesized years ago on the podcast. Right. It's on there somewhere about how they're trying to move it up. They will try to move it up again to thwart this shortage, the pilot shortage. So all these airlines were at the FAA arguing we need 70 years old. We need to make this 70 years old. People are living longer. People are healthier longer, blah, 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 blah. They're still back and forth, but my personal thing is my prediction is they're going to end up somewhere like the tax law, and it'll end up being 67 and a half or something like that. Yeah. That you have to retire by, which is great because that's 2 and a half more years of making almost $600 grand a year. Totally. That's adding $1 million to your net, career earnings. Then the other thing you got to remember is Zach, that you were talking about paying stuff back. All these regional carriers are offering these bonuses. Every week I get a postcard in the mail from one of these RJ carriers saying, hey, 20 grand, $20,000 bonus. If you're already experienced, we'll give you 50,000. If you're coming from another airline and you're already typed, we'll give you, I think the biggest one I ever saw was $200,000, which was absolutely absurd. I don't know if that's still out there, but.
And remember, these are people that are already captains too.
Right. So. That's a line captain who's that guy getting that kind of number. And this is a bonus. This isn't a pay. That's a bonus. Right. That guy's already flying for another airline as a captain, and maybe he's got beef with that company, or he needs that one domicile or base for this company. He'd rather live in whatever, Charlotte versus Chicago. So that's who that's for. That's not for somebody just up and coming. But to think that you couldn't, with a little minimal discipline, pay back this note would be absurd. I don't see any reason why it can't be done. And, even if the wheels fall off your entire career and you can't if it were me, I wouldn't be concerned about such things. We regret in life way more the things we don't do than the ones we did do.
Yep. Totally, man. Totally. Yeah, I mean, you can only make the decision based on the information that you have in front of you, and he should have no problem paying it back if the market conditions stay the same as they are, and have a great career. I mean, your career earnings, even at age 40, when he's talking about, would be very high. And in fact, the airlines didn't hire for a while, so it's a lot of guys in their 40s now that are transitioning over.
Right. Oh yeah. I mean, the new pay scales, it isn't just American Airlines. This has started. They've now set a goalpost that everybody else has to chase now, all the way down the line. The other majors, the regionals, these regionals have all ticked up their pay. That's the other thing besides the bonuses. The other thing, all these postcards, industry, we just raised our industry leading pay, blah, 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 blah. So you'll be making, even as a co-pilot, I don't know about the first year. The first year's tricky because it's a probationary thing and blah, 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 blah. But absolutely 100% after year one, you'll be well over 100 grand a year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think it's a problem paying back anything.
I was just had
As long as you're not out buying BMWs and new houses and stuff like that,
right.
you should be
I was
fine.
just talking to a Southwest captain last week, and he was saying he was flying with the first officer that was 26.
Wow.
Imagine what that guy
At Southwest.
At Southwest. Imagine what his career earnings are going to be if
Oh,
he stays
man.
65. I mean, it's crazy. Crazy.
Yeah,
it is hot now.
absolutely.
I had a friend of mine, a family friend of mine, look me up that was in town. He's from Michigan, and he was in town on a trip, and we had dinner. And he's a lot younger than me, and he was at first when he sent me the email like a week in advance. Hey, I'm going to be in Cincinnati this day. Well, can you have dinner? I said, yeah. And he was concerned because he's a corporate pilot, and that week they had just announced they were closing his flight department, and this was a huge company that he felt he was going to retire from. And I said, oh no, we'll talk about it when I see you. By the time we met for dinner, his demeanor was totally different. I'm like, oh man, so are you losing? Oh yeah, I already got an interview at Delta. I'm like, oh jeez, okay.
God. Oh yeah.
He went from panic mode to an interview at Delta in 7 days.
Oh well, it's happening fast. They've realized, I've noticed something as I've been, we do this podcast, we have the product, and I'm sure just like me, you've been paying attention to the market a little bit more than the average bear that does our jobs. And that's one thing I've noticed, the tightening and the just how fast they're able to move people through these hiring departments. And Delta's got their stuff together. At one point, they're not at these numbers right now, but a year ago today, they were at 300 people a month hiring and sending through the training department. They had contracts on simulators all around the globe. They were flying guys down to South America to get in some random simulator Boeing owned so they could move them through. And they got their stuff together. They got this stuff wired now. And from application submittal to training date at Delta is 27 days right now. And that's something that 10 years ago would have been a 2-year long process.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's quite amazing, actually.
And they were on a hiring freeze for probably 6 or 8 years, right?
Yeah. Not hiring anybody. Yeah, that's all changed. Everybody's hiring. Well, actually, that's not true. I think FedEx stopped hiring.
A little slowdown with the
shipping. Yeah, they got in the red a little bit, and I'm not sure the full story, but
yeah. Cool, but it's great news. Still lots of work out there, and it's a great time to jump in.
Absolutely, Zach. I don't think you should have any concerns about being able to take care of this debt.
Yep. Good. Well, that's a great question. We've been inundated with questions. The course has just blown up. We've had more sales on our course than ever before, which we really appreciate. It's very cheap. We switched to a subscription service. You can cancel at any time. So you can watch everything in a month if you really hustle. So it's very inexpensive. If you're interested in getting aviation, check it out. If you like our podcast, please like and subscribe. I think we've doubled our subscribers in the last 2 months. I mean, it's wonderful. So it keeps us motivated to do these videos. We got a lot of great ones coming up, including the one we mentioned here, the side hustle videos. So hope to have a good summer and safe flying to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have a question that you would like us to answer on the podcast here, you can email us at podcast@propilotplaybook.com. Thanks for tuning in, folks, and we will see you on the next one.
Thanks.